Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me. And yeah, I'm back. Yes, it is definitely an odd thing to continue to do that intro, especially because you guys know that I've been doing other content and I've been doing kind of other stuff. It's definitely an intro that is giving me a lot of throwbacks to when I first started YouTube, but that's beyond the point. We are here for a brand new Deku What If. What if Deku was the Flash, or what if Deku was a speedster? Not exactly sure how I'm going to call it. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but this is part one. If you want to see another part ASAP, make sure to show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, and all that good stuff. And I'm not going to waste that much of your time, because I want to get right into the story. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya was born in a world where superpowers known as quirks were everything to society. Frankly, the normal jobs like a doctor, a lawyer, and so on were not sought after. Most children grew up and wanted to be a hero. But those who were born without a quirk were kind of underestimated. But when I say kind of, I mean majorly. Because when you're born with a quirk, you are ostracized, you are thrown away like garbage, and you are doubted from the very day you step on that earth. Now with Izuku, it's far different, because his mother is someone that he cherishes and loves so much, but soon she would realize that her son was without a quirk. The doctor, or the quirk doctor, would begin to say that it seems that Izuku was not born with what is needed to actually have a said quirk, but also explains that the kid can do some honorable jobs, be a police officer, be a fireman, and the mother, Inko Midoriya, would then say that the man should shut up now because she doesn't want to hear another peep. They then leave, and Inko Midoriya is completely silent all the way on the drive home. But it seems as if she's not done just yet to actually get her son a quirk. It sounds odd and it sounds weird, but it's as if Inko has an obsession with Izuku having a quirk. And Izuku doesn't even know what's going on, but all he knows is that his mother tells him that she's going to make sure that he gets a quirk. They continue to go through different trials and different actual experimental events to actually somehow get Izuku a quirk. Yes, there are experimental trials to get people quirks, but none of them have worked. Izuku continues to go through these, and it seems that his mother continues to actually get a little bit more frustrated by every single trial that doesn't work. It seems she's going a little bit cuckoo. It's a scary thing because she continues to freak out so much that even at her own job, she begins to have kind of these spurts of rage and so on. These spurts of rage and anger and stuff like that. And she works with a lot of chemical elements and all of these crazy things that can be massively dangerous. And after years and years of experimenting, trying to get Izuku a quirk, nothing has worked. Actually, Izuku has dealt with quite a few issues health-wise and even mentally-wise because of these experiments. Luckily, he hasn't gone insane or anything like that, or he hasn't gotten like terminally ill, but he's definitely not in the best spot in the world. On top of that, he continues to get bullied day in and day out by his so-called best friend Bakugo, or who he calls Kachan, and he continues to just go through hell. It seems that he goes home and his mother puts him through experiment after experiment, trying to get him a quirk that he feels he kind of doesn't need now. He doesn't want it if it's going to cost him so much. Then he goes to school and gets bullied for not having that quirk. He continues to realize that this society is just messed up. This is so mean and horrible. I mean, this is something he cannot control. This is something that he can't even deal with himself. There's no way around the idea that he wasn't born without the ability to have a quirk. So what is he supposed to do? And one day, he kind of tells his mother that he's done with these experiments and he's done trying to please her to have a quirk, or for him to have a quirk, and she snaps on him, yelling at him, saying that he's ungrateful and getting extremely mad at Izuku. So much so that she lets it slip that she had a child for the sole reason of him having a strong quirk, actually paying a lot of money to his so-called father that is now overseas. She would then, out of anger, explain that his father must have been useless, and just because he had a strong quirk doesn't mean she's going to get a kid with a strong quirk as well. She would then cuss at him over and over again, saying that it is absolute BS that this has happened, and then would storm off. Izuku would feel like this is extremely bad. Like, he would feel as if something bad is going to happen, but then he would shake his head thinking there's no way his own mother would do anything bad to him. Well, until he realizes he's extremely wrong. Izuku was around the age of 12 by now, and he would wake up in a cold sweat thinking that someone's around, but there's nobody there. Until out of nowhere, a bag would go over his head and he would be knocked out and dragged off to a different place. He could feel his body singeing and shaking as if stuff has been injected into his body after he woke up. Then he would get a look at it and see that there are multiple tubes in his arms. Yes, tubes in his arms. He would then scream, asking for help. But then he would look up as the shutters on the roof would begin to open, as if something is going to happen. But there's something on top right above the shutters. It seems as if there's some sort of a lightning rod. He doesn't know what the hell is going on, but he screams out for help once again. His mother would walk in as she is wheeling in a ton of chemicals as if she's going to pump it through his body. She would then say that it's not time for him to wake up just yet and that he should go to sleep now. And as she says that, the thunderstorm begins to roll in on Japan. Everybody would then begin to kind of run off into their homes. You can hear them in the distance, kids running away, parents calling them in, and so on. But this is something else. It's as if this right here is his last sense of actual normality. The kids, the parents, all of them screaming on the outside, telling kids to come in, and it's time to basically stop playing outside because of the rain and the thunder. But his mother stands there with chemicals in her hands, ready to pump them more, or at least pump more chemicals through Izuku's veins. She would implement them through the tubes that are already injected in Izuku, and Izuku's shivers and all of this sickness seems to kind of rush back as his veins are pumped filled of these horrible seeming like elements and chemicals that are affecting him massively. She says that now he'll be able to gain a quirk, and he'll be able to gain a quirk basically more powerful than anyone else. But before she could even finish her sentence, the last thing she wanted actually occurs, because the lightning would strike before she can even get out of the room, and when the lightning rod catches it, it sparks into the room, levitating all of the liquids that are within the glasses, within the pints, and all of the things you could think of begin to raise up, and the lightning strikes down on Izuku, but would then transfer off to his mother as well, instantly killing her, zapping her and paralyzing her, and then killing her on the spot. Izuku would scream in pain as his body would shake relentlessly, but it begins to shake so fast that all he looks like is a blur. That's until the entire room sparks up in light, and it seems as if the entire building combusts into nothingness. It's completely flat, and you can hear the screams of many people outside and also in the other buildings coming out to see what just happened. They come out to see just rubble, and there's one person underneath the rubble that is currently vibrating and then stopping, and vibrating and then stopping over and over and over again. And then eventually people would come, like heroes, we're talking firefighters, policemen, all of them would come all the way over to see one actual spot completely electrocuted and fried, as if there was a body there, but no longer there at all, as if it was just shattered and electrocuted to dust itself. And then they walk over to the rocks, seeing that the rocks are kind of shaking, but shaking weirdly, as if they're vibrating all at the same frequency and speed. And it's such an odd thing, as if there's a giant being underneath that rubble. They clear the rubble of the shaking rocks and eventually see a boy. This one boy, as he's sparking over and over again, lightning tracing all around him. And eventually they grab him, take him, put him in an ambulance, and ship him off to the nearest hospital to hopefully get him help. But soon Izuku would awake, and when he wakes up, days, maybe even weeks, maybe even months later, he would see that nobody's there. A nice nurse lady would walk in and be completely shocked, calling for the doctors, as they would run in and begin to tell Izuku that he's been out for at least 8 months. They're all, well, he's obviously shocked to hear this, asking what happened, what occurred, and frankly, he can't remember a thing. Not at all. They decide that he's just a boy, that they don't want to tell him exactly what happened, at least to a large extent. But the issue is, who's to say that Izuku won't eventually remember what happened, what his mother did to him? But there are specs and parts that Izuku does remember. He remembers the abuse. He remembers the struggle, but now he doesn't remember that final gambit that occurred, the lightning striking down, zapping him, and obliterating his mother. No, he doesn't remember any of that. But he does remember the abuse. But he wakes up in a hospital bed, and the people that are in front of him are telling him that unfortunately his mother has been killed, and that he was found in rubble and so on. This would jolt his memory a little bit, remembering the lightning that hit him, but nothing else. He begins to feel the vibrations in his body once again, and the doctors would ask what his quirk is, and he would say that he has none. But the doctors begin to tell him that he was violently shaking when he was asleep, and the shaking looked like he was shaking at a speed that many of them couldn't really register even through their own eyes. It was just a blur. And they assumed that maybe he awakened some sort of speed quirk. Maybe he awakened some sort of extreme movement or fast vibration quirk. They're not sure. That those tests and all the tests they've done show up literally nothing, but they don't 100% know, but it's obvious by the eye that they can tell that something did occur. He is slightly happy about this. I mean, he got a quirk, he got what he wanted. Maybe he can now be a hero, but how is he going to train this thing? He has no clue, but the motivation is at an all-time high for Izuku Midoriya, because guess what? He's lost everything. He's going to be thrown into an orphanage, thrown into a foster home, and so on, and he's going to have to try to make his way out through being a hero. He's not sure how he's going to do it, but he's going to make sure that he could somehow do it. On top of that, he has stacks of medical bills that were piled up, and frankly, a lot of them were kind of paid off by an anonymous wealthy person, but at the same time, I mean, not all of them were fully, completely, and utterly paid off. Well, that's until someone walks in that he actually doesn't even know who it is. When the person would walk in, it would actually be a short little mouse-like creature, maybe a rat of some sorts, but it was actually Principal Nezu of UA High School. Principal Nezu would introduce himself, telling Izuku Midoriya that UA is actually paid for the mass majority of the medical bills that he has, and that they would love for him to actually try out for the UA entrance exam when his time would come. They would then tell him that it seems like he has a very special quirk, and his circumstances may not be the best, but they do wish that to see him once again when he is a little bit older. He would ask what's next and if he can have help or anything, but unfortunately Nezu would say that they're actually not allowed to do so at this moment. But if he continues to work hard and continues to read up on his studies and trains his quirk, at least to a small extent, then he could actually be able to do something. Now, with that said, there's someone else that would then come walking in, and it would be Bakugo and his mother. Now, this is where things begin to change massively, because Bakugo may have not been extremely good friends with Izuku, but a near-death experience does something to a friend's psyche, especially one like Bakugo, who has treated Izuku like garbage, and especially learning of the abuse that his mother put him through. Of course, he would be a lot nicer to Izuku, and his own mother would decide that they're going to take on the adoption of Izuku and make sure to bring him in as a Bakugo. Now, this is something that would make Izuku emotional, and Bakugo would even give him a hug, saying that he's glad he's okay, and he apologizes for everything that he did. He begins to tell him, though, that there's no guarantee that he'll be the nicest in the world, but he's going to make sure that he's a lot better. And that this whole incident made him realize how big or how much of a crappy person he's been to not only him, but to many other people as well. Now, this is massive character development for someone like Katsuki Bakugo, who has been basically built up, and his ego has been inflated his entire life. So this is a good step in the right direction for Bakugo. Now, this is also perfect for Izuku, not having to go into an orphanage, not having to go into your traditional foster home, going home with the Bakugos, and actually staying there and going back to school, catching up on his work, and so on, and actually training with Katsuki Bakugo. Yes, training with Bakugo. Now, some time would pass, about 2.5, maybe 3 years. This would lead up to the UA entrance exam, but they would continue training together, working hard together, and they wouldn't have that much conflict, at least between each other. But one thing would lead to another, and Izuku would stumble across actually walking under that bridge once again. But this time around, Izuku's not alone. Izuku is walking with Bakugo, and the sludge villain would come out of the sewers, standing in front of them both, saying that he's going to take one of their bodies for good, so that he can get away from that giant freak. In which immediately they would both smirk, and Izuku would dash forward, immediately spiraling around the top and the bottom of the tunnel itself. Bakugo would go blasting forward, landing an explosion, but as this air would filter out, it would push the giant monster of a being backwards. As it continues to do that, as Izuku continues to run around over and over and over again on the walls and the ceiling and the floor, eventually another explosion would send the giant monster flying, spiraling out and splattering against the wall. They don't necessarily have the full-on strength to take out the opponents, but Izuku would continue to send these gusts of air just by using his running and also his arms, spinning it as fast as possible. He's not too well inclined with his quirk, but the fact that him and Bakugo are extremely intelligent, especially dealing with hero-like quirks, shoot, they'd be able to come up with some creative ways to utilize his quirk, Bakugo's quirk, and even both of them together. So they would both benefit each other extremely well. Now, this would lead to All Might showing his face and knocking the villain out in one blow, and them actually helping out clean up the sludge that is everywhere, but Izuku just speeds around extremely quickly, picking it all up and bottling it in a bottle. He would thank All Might would thank them, and then they would thank All Might and ask for some autographs and stuff like that. And they would ask if they could basically get some memorabilia from All Might or something like that, and also ask him a couple more questions. And then it comes down to one last thing, and they ask if somehow he could train them, in which All Might kind of says that he can't do that, and he apologizes, but if they try out for UA and go to the entrance exam and get in, he will be there as a teacher, so be ready. in which both of them would get excited, and as they turn around and then turn back, All Might has already jumped off as his form is going to deteriorate, so we had to leave as quick as possible. But both of them are extremely excited, and there's still months and months of waiting and training leading up to the UA entrance exam, so they still have plenty of time to work on their skills and also work on Izuku's control of his speed power. And Izuku would begin running up around the beach and so on, mostly at times that people aren't there. Yes, there is a little bit of an issue with the Bakugo family because Izuku does consume a lot of food. So he does say that he will literally clean the house, he'll do all the chores, everything, so they don't even got to worry about it, and he'll just super speed all of it if they just feed him what he needs to be fed, in which, to be honest, isn't even a good deal on the part of the Bakugo family, because damn, that dude can eat a ton of food. But it is cool that they don't have to worry about the house. It's spotless all the time, and a bunch of the chores and all that, easy peasy. So it gives them a lot more time to do other things as well. And, you know, maybe pick up an extra job or two because they need to pay for the food for this crazy kid that eats like 10,000 calories a day because he runs so much. Now, the training is extremely fruitful for both of them. I will say Izuku's limit is so much higher than Bakugo's at this point, just because this where he's not only where he started, but where he could genuinely get to. But Izuku would kind of learn the ins and outs of his running and get to the point where he's running extremely fast, like extremely fast. Faster than most people could possibly even imagine, maybe even in the realm of 300, 400, 500 miles per hour. It's super fast speeds, and he just continues to run back and forth up and down the beach. And while watching this, Bakugo even says that he can go faster. He begins to shoot explosions to tell Izuku to amp it up even more, and Izuku would amp it up. He would begin to sprint back and forth at as fast as he possibly can, and he smiles as he does it. And as he plants his foot one more time and begins to actually run again, he would then look to his left as he sees this odd looking person. But then he realizes that's not an odd looking person, that's him. He freaks out and then stops as he tumbles and then slams into the water at the beach. And then he looks up toward where Bakugo is, and Bakugo's standing there with his arms up. What the hell happened, dude? He begins to kind of question Izuku, asking what he's doing, and that if he's doing the whole, like, passing out thing all over again. But Izuku would tell him no, that he doesn't know what just happened. He literally saw another version of himself, or saw him to his left, in which Bakugo says that's enough running for today, that he thinks he's lost a couple screws in his head. But Izuku's dead serious. He doesn't know what happened, but once he started cranking up the speed even more, it was this weird feeling, as if he sees someone right next to him, but he stopped and stopped everything before something could finish, as if he could feel that he was about to do something, as he was about to break a wall of some sorts, but he stopped. The man disappeared that was next to him, the person that looked just like him but wasn't looking just like him. He then realizes the person running next to him had a suit on. A suit. He then runs off and then comes back with a piece of paper and also like a bunch of like color pencils and stuff like that, and begins to draw exactly the way the suit looked, and he shows it to Bakugo. And Bakugo would say, that thing looks freaking awesome, but I mean, we don't have anything like that. I mean, of course we get into UA, we will, but we don't have anything like that. But Izuku says that's the thing he saw. This suit is what he saw, but it wasn't him. He wasn't wearing the suit already. This other mirage version of him was. So maybe that suit is what he's going to wear in the future. In which immediately Bakugo shuts it down. You're telling me that you just saw into the damn future. In which Izuku looks at him and shrugs and says he's not sure, but it's the only thing that makes sense. Makes sense. I guess. They both would then kind of freak out about this and then say that they're just not going to talk about this anymore because they're getting headaches. But they decide that they're going to continue their training, their studies, and so on, because they're prepping for that UA entrance exam, and that is coming up very, very soon. Some more time would pass, and eventually the UA entrance exam would then begin. Izuku and Bakugo would approach the area for the entrance exam and would be extremely excited. A lot of the teachers are watching, and Nezu is included in this, and Nezu watches the cameras as Izuku, right beside Bakugo, actually walks in the doors. Now, Nezu is excited to see this because this is someone that he's been curious about for a while, and he's actually been watching and actually spectating a little bit of what he's been doing and training, and it's obvious that his quirk, or his powers in general, are something that they have never truly seen. He's faster than anybody they've ever seen, even faster than the Ida family. Yes, the Ida family, the ones that are known for their speed. No, but this kid is different. He is a totally different monster in terms of his powers, and Izuku would more or less just get ready for what is to come in the so-called entrance exam. He would do his work and finish extremely quick, as always, because Izuku is very, very fast in doing anything he wants to do. So he'd finish, take a bit of a rest, and then get ready for the practical exam, which would be destroying a ton of robots. In which this is where things get extremely interesting, because Izuku begins to think to himself that he doesn't really have a way of necessarily destroying the robots. Maybe he can kind of push them over at fast speeds and they would destroy themselves. In which, in the early parts of the entrance exam, he actually tries this, and the lower point robots, they definitely get destroyed pretty easily by just him running over and pushing them over, and they get destroyed. But the other ones, the more high grade, or the high point ones, being that of like a 3-point robot, it is not that easy. He begins to think that he should try and vibrate his hand and maybe punch it, and as he does this, it does hurt him a little bit, but mostly because he doesn't have it down right. He begins to phase his hand and then kind of messes it up and kind of hurts his hand a little bit. But other than that, he's able to destroy these robots now using this phasing-like method, kind of phasing and breaking the robots apart entirely. He races around and does just this, and quickly he would realize that he has destroyed almost every single robot on the field. The speakers would come up and begin to say that the other students unfortunately don't have enough robots to actually be able to pass. This isn't something that they thought would occur, but they do ask Izuku Midoriya to step off the field and for the rest of the contestants to come back in about 6 hours so that they can get their chance at some of the other robots as well that they have predetermined. Now, Izuku would leave, but then be stopped by, well, Principal Nezu and also Aizawa. They would speak to him, asking a ton of questions about his powers, but let's be honest, even Izuku doesn't know how his powers exactly work, and doesn't know even really where he's got it from. Again, he's kind of foggy in terms of his memories. A lot of those memories with him being kind of strapped down and struck by lightning is massively fuzzy. But he begins to say that all he remembers is getting struck by lightning and waking up in a bed a long time after that. He's not sure what else. He's not sure what else happened, what occurred, or anything like that. He does know his mother unfortunately passed away, but he doesn't even know when that even happened. So it could have been when he was in a coma, could have been before, could have been after, whatever. He doesn't know. In which Aizawa would be definitely interested in this because it seems like the kid has gone through a lot, but he does seem to have insane potential. Aizawa would nod as he then begins to talk to Nezu on their own, and they walk back and they tell Izuku that he's been extremely impressive and that he's definitely going to pass, that there's no doubt about it, and they hope to see him extremely soon because they think the kid has immense potential. Izuku would smile and thank them, and he would say that, well, on top of that, he wants to get this in early as he hands over something to them, and it's actually the suit design he was talking about. He says that he deals with a lot of friction issues, and he burns through a ton of shoes, and yeah, it's been a bit of an issue, and his adopted parents don't really like that very much, in which they kind of laugh a little bit about that, that he burns through shoes so much, and they say that they'll handle it. They might even get him some regular sneakers that are just friction resistant, and maybe even some other clothes that are regularly friction resistant as well, so that they can basically make it so he's a little bit more comfortable when he just wants to run. And Izuku would be happy to hear this, because damn, he's tired of basically losing every single piece of clothing he ever has. I mean, it's pretty annoying, and he gets a little bit frustrated, especially because every time they train, he knows damn well his whole outfit's feeling to be burnt up and shredded entirely. Now, they would then leave, and Izuku would await the exit of Bakugo, and Bakugo would then say that he thought he did a great job, that an amazing job. He destroyed so many robots, but then Izuku says that he destroyed so many that they had to actually restart the test for the other students. Bakugo looks at him, and then looks away, and then looks back at him and calls him an idiot, as he says that he definitely got second place and Izuku definitely got first, which pisses him off, but whatever. He would then walk out, and they would head home, and there would be a good bit of time, maybe a couple weeks, before the first day of UA High School. Now, they would await letters, and finally when the letters would arrive, they would get a very pleasant surprise, because that pleasant surprise would be All Might himself. Yes, All Might himself. A picture of All Might, or a hologram of All Might, would begin to speak to both Izuku and Bakugo, at least separately, saying congratulations that they individually had got number 1, being that of Izuku, and number 2, being that of Bakugo, and they did an amazing job. And All Might says that he's extremely surprised that he ran into the top 2 basically students that were coming in to UA, and he never realized how much of a blessing that truly was, and he was glad that he was able to talk to them before they even tried out to get into UA in the first place. Now, he would then explain they're both in Class 1A, so on and so forth, and he would say that he's going to be extremely excited to work with them both and hopes to see them very soon. Now, from here on out, they're both extremely excited and ready to go to UA immediately, but with a little bit of extra training, you know, on the side, running a little bit and so on, they would eventually have their first day of UA. But when Izuku would arrive, he would be brought to the office with Bakugo and be handed a bunch of shoes and a bunch of shirts, shorts, and stuff like that, and the lady at the front would actually say that they're all friction proof. And she tells him to have fun and have a good time at UA High School and wishes them both good luck. Izuku is extremely happy about this, beginning to put on, going into the bathroom and then putting on like some of the clothes and just getting ready. Now, the clothes aren't the nicest in the world, and Bakugo kind of laughs at him because they're not like amazing clothing, but still at the same time, they are friction proof, so that's all that frickin' matters. Literally. He would then walk up to UA, and they would walk up to the door, and the door would be towering over them both. But then Izuku would stop. He would look at the door, but then he would look at Bakugo, and he would look out in the open. He would look out just toward the city. Bakugo would ask what the hell he's doing, and he would say he feels different somehow. He doesn't know what it is, but it feels different. Bakugo would then say once again, stop with the ominous BS. What's happening? In which Izuku would say that it feels like someone is watching them. Like, I don't know what it is, but it feels like there's someone watching. But just them. Bakugo would say that it's just first day jitters and push him inside the classroom, getting ready for the first day of UA High School and also their quirk assessment test. Of course, Aizawa would go through all of that, but then we would look off into the distance. As you can hear Aizawa speaking about the quirk assessment test, you then zoom into a nearby building and a suit that is white and yellow with a bolt that seems to be an odd looking shape of some sorts. Not your normal bolt, but looks like it's kind of facing the opposite direction, or maybe the reverse of a normal drawn lightning bolt, and they would be standing there. It's a slimmer body or slimmer shape, but this person is relatively short, maybe around 5'6", maybe to 5'8", and the person that is standing on that rooftop would then say that they'll be seeing Izuku Midoriya very, very soon. But as they say that, they would dash off as red and white lightning would trail behind them. Yes, red and white lightning trail behind them as they speed off, running in the distance. But Izuku was feeling something, felt that something was off, as if there was something in his core, deep down inside, something felt off. It wasn't just your typical, just run-of-the-mill stalker looking from the distance. It felt as if something deep within his own body, his core, was just flat out different. Maybe it was his powers. Maybe it was his mentality. Maybe it was his mind. Maybe it was something just messing with him. But there was somebody that was doing something to mess him up. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know who it was. But for now, Izuku has a mission. And that mission is to excel at UA High School no matter what. And it's all going to start with the quirk assessment test that is going to be enforced by Shota Aizawa, other known as the hero Eraserhead. But for now, that is the end of part 1 of What If Deku Was The Flash. If you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. You want to see this next part or part 2 come to you ASAP. As always, make sure to show love to the video. I actually been enjoying doing this content, but I must admit it does take a little bit more time for me to like sit down and record like a 36-minute part 1 or something like that. And I know most of you really like the longer parts, so that's what I'm trying to do for y'all. But if you show a ton of love, you guys will have another video, not on Wednesday, but most likely on Thursday, because Wednesday we already have a video good to go. Yeah, that's all I gotta say though. Hope y'all enjoyed the content and this part 1. And yeah, that's it. I hope all of you have an amazing day. Later.